Hey everyone, welcome to an episode of the Rails API series. In this episode right here, we're going to be continuing to build out our backend API. So if you take a look at what we have over here on the screen, you'll see that it's a very simple app. We can log in, we can log out, and everything works. But the problem is, we need something a little bit more complicated. Like we need something that can handle a real life CRM application, like where a company could sign up for one of these apps, and they could go in and they could create an account, and they can issue invoices to other companies. So let's take a look at what we have in the backend over here, and understand what it is that we are going to need to build, and then start building out that whole relationship between the models and the relation in the database. So right now we just have a user, and the user has many contacts. So let's keep that simple right now. And basically the contact belongs to user. It's very straightforward, right? So it's just a one-to-many relationship. However, in a CRM application, if you've used a CRM application before, you see that like we need to have some kind of like an account where we can have an account that the user owns. Like, so usually the account is like owned by a user. One user and owner, and the user can invite many other users to come and join this account and become an employee, and they can then basically hire those people to issue invoices and send out those invoices and record payments and all that stuff. So we need that system to be built, and that's what we're going to be continuing to build. Now, the other thing we need to do is these contacts are just individuals. So like, for example, I, as a contact for a company, I work for a company, but in that company, there may be other contacts. So basically we need some kind of way to kind of like group contacts together. So basically we need an organization of some sort, where, we can create an organization. So let's say, for example, my company, Artellectual, sends an invoice to a company, B. B Company Limited has many people working for them. And when I send the invoice, I need to be able to choose who I can send the invoices to. So we need to set up that whole structure, and that's what we're going to be doing in this episode right here, in the next couple of episodes. So we need to do the back end, and then you will do the front end to go with that as well. So yeah, I mean, right now this kind of like suffices, in terms of serving the purpose of letting us understand how everything works together. But now we need to take it a little bit further, and that's what we're going to be doing right here. So let's get started. So I'm going to start out by creating a model, and it's going to be an account model. It's going to have, the name. It's going to have a URL friendly name, because we need to be able to set the context in the URL, and it needs to be able to go in the URL correctly. We need to be able to generate that slug and all that stuff. So let's start out by creating the model, the account model. So I'm going to head into the console over here. I just did a bundle update on my Rails app. So let's see here. Let me just close out the app and do a Rails S just to reboot it. And so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Rails G model account. And the account is going to have a name, string, slug, string. It's also going to have a owner, references. So interesting thing about the owner references field, this is going to create a foreign key on the account with owner_ID. So we need to do a little bit of setup to get this to work. And if you're on Rails 5, which you should be, you'll be just fine. It's very easy to configure that in the migration files, and I'll show you how to do that. It's a Rails 5 specific feature. So that should be enough to get us started. We could also have, addresses, but I feel that, maybe like you could have multiple address, like you're sending out from multiple addresses. Like, for example, if you're a company and you have multiple locations. So we'll want to handle that later. So for now, we'll keep it simple. Name, slug, owner works just fine. Let's go ahead and generate that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the account and set up the relationship correctly. So now it belongs to owner, but the model is actually the user itself, right? So what we need to do is class name user, and basically we need to set up the migration correctly as well. So over here, this by default won't work. So what we need to do is add an index true for this, and the foreign key is going to be to table users like that, and then that will be just fine. So if you're wondering where I got that from, there's a thread on Stack Overflow that answers the exact question, and I voted it up because this is the correct answer. So just giving it credits over here by this guy Ryan. Yeah, so just add the to table, and then you'll be good to go. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and do this. So I'm gonna go and do a Rails G migrate, Rails DB migrate. Sorry. And basically that's run the migration, and it's gonna create that account for us. So I'm gonna head over into the schema, just take a look at what we have over here. So we have the owner ID, and the user also has, we need to set up a has many over here. So has many accounts, and the foreign key is owner ID. So let's give this a whirl. So I'm gonna head over into the console and basically try this out. So user equals user.first, user.accounts. And as you can see here, it's, where the account owner ID is 1, and that's correct. So that means we set up the relationship correctly. So we need, now we have the accounts, we need to be able to create the account. And one more thing we need to set up is the friendly URL. So for example, when the slug field that we added, it needs to have, it needs to be able to, fill out. And there's a gem that we're going to install called friendly ID. So I'm going to head over here and friendly ID gem that we're going to add into the app. So this one here, it's going to automatically generate and give us a lot of helper methods that we can use, to make life a lot easier. So we're going to install this gem over here. Very simple and straightforward. And yeah, we're going to use this. So I'm going to head over into the gem file over here, and we're going to add a friendly ID to gem friendly ID 5.0. I believe is the latest version. Yes, I believe so. 5.1. So 5.1 then. So do a bundle. Let's exit, bundle install. And then, yeah, so once we have friendly ID, we can set it up very simply. So there we go. Friendly ID 5.2.1. Great. So I'm going to just use the default over here. So I'm going to copy this extend friendly ID, head over into the account over here, and add that in our model over here. And then basically for the other setup stuff, so friendly ID, this is the name, the attribute name, and then use slugged. So let's copy this and do something like this. So now basically when we create an account, it's going to automatically use this field slug. So I believe that the column name slug is correct. So there we go. We also need to do slug string unique. We need to give it a unique index. So let's do a rollback and then correct this part over here. Actually, we can just do add an index, add a unique index. So Rails G migration, add index for account slug. So what we want to do is add an index here, add index accounts slug unique true Rails DB migrate. That should be okay. All right, so that pretty much sets that up. So we should be good to go. Reading through the documentation, friendly ID name use slugged should work just fine. We also have the name field. So let's check that. So instead of using foo, we need to use name. So now everything should be working. Let's try and create a account over here. So let's see why this is complaining. Aha, okay, use double quoted when you need it. For now, this should be okay. So I'm going to go into Rails console and then create the account and attach it to the user. So account user equals user.first. And then basically now we have some kind of user. So now we're going to have account equals user.accounts.create name our intellectual COLTD. So you see, as a user, when I'm signing up and I'm creating an account, all I need to do is just type in the name as I would, the official business name that I would actually need to add. And then basically, let's see what happens. So if I take a look at the account .slug over here, it's going to remove and strip all those commas and dots and whatnot that, make it not valid for the URL. And it's just going to turn it into a URL friendly slug over here. So everything worked. Now if you take a look at the accounts.owner, it's also working. It's referencing the correct user over here. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. We set up the basic account. We're going to need to add a lot more, like things like, the accounts, like this usually have a lot of information, like for example, addresses and, how do we handle multiple addresses, tax ID and all that fancy stuff that we need to do, for an account like this. And what that means is also we need to start, handling some kind of onboarding process, like have a sign up process over here as well. So like when we sign up, we click sign up and then we go to the sign up page and then we get taken to the, we get shown the sign up and then we get to see the onboarding process of creating the account. Someone could set up an account, set up the currency that the account wants to use. All that stuff has to come in order for this to be a complete CRM package. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like, share, and subscribe. Also become a member on our site. We have a lot of new updates coming. Very excited about all that. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.